super excited to be here. I'm supporting all of the candidates in the district so that we can flip this district blue in 2020. Round of applause, folks. So, in order to do that, I am working through the ADLCC, that's my employer. So, I spent a lot of time with Felicia French. Does everyone here know Felicia? Yeah. But also down ballot candidates. So where I'm standing right now is Sedona, so I'm familiar with candidates like Holly Klug and Kathy Kinsella and Donna Michaels. Some of these folks are in Yavapai versus Coconino, but we're all part of LD6. So Shauna asked me here today, although I imagine I'm going to be coming to this meeting every time you guys have it, unless I have a conflict, but she asked me to talk a little bit about Virginia, which is where I worked starting in 2017 through 2019 as a volunteer. Okay? Just like you guys. I was not paid staff, so you can advance. So this you do have to do a little bit of back and forth. I volunteered with an organization called Sister District Project. Not sure if any of you have heard of that organization. It's a national organization based in California, but we actually had half the team in California, half the team in Washington, D.C. It was 5 women that woke up after the election in tears and said, what can we do? What can we do? Our children are coming into this world. What can we do? And they sat around in the living room, these 5 women that had no political experience, no political connections, and they started looking at what's going on around the country, and they realized there are a lot of problems with our constitutional democracy, but they don't reside in the White House. The person in the White House is a symptom of the problems we have in this country. And so when they started looking around, they realized that the cause of the problems is at the state legislative level. Then they also looked around and said, where the hell do we live? We live in wacky land, super left, super crazy, San Francisco. What are we going to do politically? Are we going to focus on San Francisco? Are we going to focus on California, which is already considered its own nation state? How about if we take all the energy, all the capacity, all the resources in our district and sister them with districts around the country? So just to be clear, Sister District is not an all-woman organization. Right? Sister cities, you know how Paris is like a sister city with Sydney, blah, blah, blah. That's the idea. Sister a district that's got so much capacity and power and is already solid blue, and apply it to a purple district. Or, better yet, to a red district. Right? So that's how the organization was formed. So what is the mission of Sister District Project? We have a really simple mission. It's right there. One sentence. Super fast. We want to build and maintain Democratic majorities in state legislatures. That's it. We don't care what's going on in the White House. We'll all vote. We don't care what's going on in Congress. We'll all vote. But when it comes to states, that's where the battle is happening. If you deal with state legislative races, you will end gerrymandering, which does 2 things. One, it eliminates that voter suppression tactic, because that's all it is, and it actually gives everyone who's voting the value of their vote. Because if they don't have it in a gerrymandered district, their vote doesn't even count, even if they can vote. You understand the difference? Voter suppression, I don't get to vote. Gerrymandering, I'm voting, but my vote doesn't even effing count. Right? You got to solve gerrymandering to deal with both of those issues. Second thing, there are so many states in 2016 that were GOP trifectas. Does everyone here know what a trifecta is? Raise your hand if you know what a trifecta is. Okay? It's when every branch of state government is owned by the same party. And if you've got a red trifecta, they're the ones that are introducing the most fat, fill in the blank, crazy legislation. Because they're safe. They can do it because of gerrymandering. They can introduce the most radical laws because they're not accountable. So you've got to break those trifectas. In 2016, the Republicans had 32 chambers that they controlled. Anyone here know what a constitutional convention is? You get to 36 and you get to call one. when they executed Red Map. They want to rewrite our Constitution, and they're working on it. So, next thing. If you don't solve gerrymandering at the state level, it doesn't get solved. If you don't win back state chambers, they will rewrite the Constitution. And if you want really qualified presidential candidates or congressional candidates, they have to have some practice at being a legislator. And that starts at the state level. You need experience. You need a pipeline. You need a bench. And the last thing I will say, all the crazy laws that are going on. We like to talk about Congress law. Is anyone here old enough to remember that little cartoon, I'm a bill going to Capitol Hill? Right? You know, the voice of the man who sang that died just yesterday. Really sad. He's an amazing guy. Anyway, they talk about Congress. It starts off in the House, and then it goes to the Senate, or it starts in the Senate, it goes in the House, and on a little bill. Guess what? Every single state has its own House and Senate. Nebraska. There's always the exception proves the rule. It's not right, Patty. So, if you're thinking about laws that affect you, especially voting laws, they don't happen at the federal level. They happen at the state level. 23 times more laws at the state level than at congressional. That's why we have to focus on it. And that's why my little hashtag says, state races are sexy. Because they are. We just got to get people to understand that. So our strategy at Sister District was one of three things. We would not work with a race / a candidate unless it was a flip opportunity, like the chamber could flip from red to blue, or it was a hold. So Delaware, in case you don't know, is a blue trifecta, but by one seat. You lose that one seat, you lose that one Democratic trifecta. So you got to hold those critical seats as well. And then the last category, break. Break the supermajority. You may not be able to flip Mississippi in a single election cycle. You may not turn Louisiana in one election year. But if you don't put effort there, you never will. So in 2017, everybody was freaked out about 2016, and everybody said, let's flip the House in Congress. And Sister District Project said, wait, there's elections right now. Why are we waiting until 2018? Virginia's got elections. Let's focus on them. So we were one of the few organizations nationally that actually spent time and effort in Virginia. And we did it with the hope, remember those three categories? Flip, hold, break. Were we going to flip Virginia in 2017? No way. But we wanted to break the supermajority, right? So we targeted, as our little national grassroots organization that was started in December of 2016, we said we're going to support 14 races. And boy, will we be excited if we can win 5. 5 of 14. That's not even half. We won 13 of 14. Wow. And the one race, oh my God, the one race we didn't win. Hashtag, every vote counts. You guys know a woman named Shelley Simons? Is that a name that rings any bells for anybody here? It's pretty far across the country. Keith, you don't count. Keith can count. He's an insider. Shelley Simons was a teacher. Because guess what? Virginia, they've been cutting their education funding just like Arizona. Just not as aggressively, but they're trying. Shelley was a teacher. She ran for office. A spoiled ballot brought it to a tie vote. Tie vote! One vote could have changed that outcome. Now in Virginia, unlike Arizona, if you have a tie vote, like in Arizona, I think if it's within 50 votes, they need to do a recount. I think that's the margin. I don't know Arizona politics that well yet. But in Virginia, a panel of judges said, well, let's figure out how we're going to decide this vote. We're not going to do a recount. Oh, I know. Let's pull the winner out of a bowl. Wow. That's what they did. They put Shelley's name in a film canister. They put her opponent's name in a film canister. They put it in a big old, beautiful ceramic bowl, shook it up, and then they had someone reach in and pick it up. Because of that one vote, the Democrats did not take the majority in the House in 2017. Had that happened, they would have flipped the House in 2017. We would have flipped the House in 2017. though they didn't win the House, because we had 15 candidates in the House that were now Democrats, they passed legislation to expand Medicaid to 400,000 Virginians. That's the power of breaking a supermajority. That's what you can do. Because you know what? Up until then, the Republicans wouldn't even vote on Medicaid because they didn't have to. Now there's enough Democrats voting that it's going to come to the floor, and a Republican has to then go on record that they voted against health care for their own constituents. And some of them were smart enough not to do that. That's what changes when you change the balance of power, even if you don't have the majority. So, we did the work in 2017, 2018, like everybody else. We had lots of work to do all over the country. But after 2018 and everyone was all high and happy about Congress, we knew we had more state legislative races. And by the way, talking about voter suppression, you know, when you have a race in an off year, an odd year, that is a form of voter suppression. Because people are like, why am I voting? Nobody else is running. The president's not running. Why am I voting now? Right? That is clearly intended to do that. So in 2019, it wasn't just an odd year, it was an odd off year. Do you know what that means? Odd year, no national elections. Off year, no statewide elections. Northam was elected in 2017. All right, so no statewide ballot at all. So what am I voting for? What? State legislator? Are you kidding me? So went back in, and one of the things that we did in Virginia is compete everywhere. So even if you don't think you're going to win in that district, get a Democrat on the ballot. In 2016, there were 43 districts in Virginia that had no Democrat running at all. That's almost half the districts in Virginia didn't even have a competition. To Patty's point, you should have a choice. In 2019, there were only 8 districts where we didn't run someone. And those 8 districts, they were right next to West Virginia, and there was no shot in hell with those districts for sure, right? But at least most districts had a Democrat running. The next thing that was happening was after 2017, the Democrats didn't just say, hey, we won some elections, wasn't that great? They started right then building local Democratic Party power structure. That's you guys, the Coconino County Dems. That's the ADLCC. You have to invest in these organizations, not turn them on in a presidential election year. You have to build capacity, which is why it's critical when we're talking about what happens, as Shauna said, after 2020. After 20, we redistrict, so we've got to keep people engaged. You have to build capacity and maintain it. It's not transactional. Last thing. Party is awesome. I now work for a party. I never thought I would do that in my entire life. But I work for a party now. But here's the thing. The party is not the end-all be-all. Because there are these things like Sister District Party, which is a nonprofit, grassroots organization. There are things like groups on the ground that aren't necessarily affiliated with a party, but they're doing the work. So in Virginia, a number of these local groups partner with the national groups in order to build and expand capacity for the party. So you think of groups like Lucha as an example. They're not a Democratic Party organization, but they're all about giving people a voice at the table that haven't had that voice. Right? We partner with those groups. We don't just dismiss them, we don't bulldoze them, we partner with them and bring them into the process. And that's what happened in Virginia. So what happened in Virginia in 2019? We flipped the House and the Senate. Yay. Remember, in 2016 it was a red trifecta, a deep red trifecta. And one thing I want to say right now, in 2017, when we flipped those 15 seats in the House and still didn't get the majority because of Shelley Simons, that was a lie. 200,000 more people voted for Democratic state legislative candidates than for Republicans. And we still were denied the majority because of gerrymandering. So you have to fix systemic causes if you want to solve these problems. In 2019, Sister District supported 27 candidates. So you can see we kind of doubled our effort. 19 of those candidates won, which is about a 70% win rate. You find me a professional consultant that has that kind of a win rate. Very hard. So we had 2 seats in the Senate and 3 in the House. That's how we took the majority. What is it here in Arizona? Oh, everyone should know this.
2.
It's the reverse, right? It's 3 in the Senate, 2 in the House. That's what we got to do. That's what we did in 2019. We can do it in 2020. Because the only thing we need to do is the work. So what were our lessons learned in Virginia? Which is the whole point of this presentation. Number 1, the folks on the ground did not plan for the high voter turnout. There was a lot of interest in voting in that odd off-year election. 40% of voters turned out, an insane number for an odd off-year election. This is 2020. You think turnout's going to be high? Yes. It's going to be sky high, right? And that's good and bad. It's good for us, but guess what? The GOP is going to be turning out too, right? Another thing that was happening in Virginia, suburban growth. That is where those blue votes came in, those suburban areas. The rural areas didn't flip. It was just that the suburban areas had grown so much. And another interesting fact, 1 in 10 Virginians in 2019 was born outside of the U.S. That was not the case in 2016. That demographic had shifted, right? Understand what the demographic shifts are in our district, because that plays in as well. Sitting next to a lady who's from Oregon. Probably pretty blue. Oregon's pretty blue, right? Because of the high voter turnout for the GOP, everyone in Virginia focused on persuasion, which I know is a critical focus here, but they took their eye off the ball of what? Turnout. Low propensity, but likely Democratic voters. They just assume, no, it's okay, they'll vote too. No, they won't, because you still got to talk to them. If they didn't have the habit of voting before, why would they vote now? So you have to do, and I know it's hard, we always want priorities, you got to do both. You can't leave one thing on the table. The primary focus is persuasion, but please don't ignore low propensity. They got to be motivated by why it's in their interest to vote. It's in everyone's interest to vote, but you have to explain that. You have to give that information to voters. And specifically in Virginia, in the districts where we didn't win, because there were districts we definitely didn't win in, it was because of low propensity voters in the Latinx community and the African American community. They were ignored because the focus was so much on persuasion that the rest kind of fell away. So we have to be smarter. We have to learn from these lessons and do both, and do them both well. So, go to the last slide and wrap up and just say, I am extremely excited and happy to be here in Coconino County. Here today in Coconino County, because technically I live in Yavapai County, because I'm just past that dividing line. I'm in West Sedona. If you're ever down there, let me know. There's a huge potential this year. Everyone has their eyes on Arizona. Shauna mentioned a canvass that's coming up in February in Cottonwood in the Verde Valley. 60 people have already signed up to volunteer in February, people. And that's the first of 2 that I know of, and I've got more people saying, we want to come, we want to come, we want to come. So think about how to leverage this. Think about how we get organized so we all have the same map that we're working off of, and we're not working at cross purposes. The way to win is not magic. It's not special. It's just work. We just got to be smart. We got to do the work. And as Ann pointed out, read